What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. Today we're making some Damascus. I'm starting with 8 layers of 15 and 20 and 8 layers of 10 24, and I'm stacking them interchangeably. And we're gonna weld up that billet and get it into the forge. For this billet, I'm not really looking to do anything too crazy. I'm going to be using this billet for many things down the line, so I'm just going to be taking a portion of it for today's knife. But I am going to make a roughly decent layer count. I don't know, I guess anything over 100 should be considered a high layer, though I'm not sure. It's going to end up being about 125, 130-ish layers. Depends on how many pieces we end up stacking after our initial press and drawing out. It just depends how long it gets. If it gets extra long, we're probably going to end up with a few extra pieces, and that'll increase the layer count, because after this initial forge weld we're going to have 16 layers, and then we'll just multiply from there. So this is pretty standard. I'm just pressing it with my longer dies, that way we get nice even presses. And to be able to incorporate a little bit extra movement, we're gonna go on ahead and knock in those corners, and that's just gonna get the material to move around a little bit better, give us a more interesting random pattern. One thing that I am going to be trying here in the next upcoming weeks is I'm going to be starting work on doing more intricate Damascus patterns, start my introduction into mosaics. I have done mosaics in the past, but not really anything too complicated. So I'm going to start with figuring out how to make C's and W's, and then go from there making patterns. Also recently, by recently I mean a few days ago, I saw a video that Dennis Tyrell from Tyrell Knife Works put out, in which they were explaining how gradients work and how to create gradients within patterns to kind of give it more depth and shadow. So I'll also be trying that myself, because I kind of understand what they're doing and I want to see if I can replicate it. And at the same time, if I can replicate it, it's going to be a very, very cool piece to replicate, and a concept to have that just makes any pattern that I can already make just 10 times cooler, because you'll have a lot of that gray kind of fading into it. So as you can see right here, I am welding up our blocks. I ended up with 8 blocks, and that's going to bring our count all the way up to about 128 if my math is not incorrect. Give or take a few, depending on how the layers end up sitting on top of each other. Sometimes if I ended on a white and a black, then it creates 2 layers, or if I ended on a white, it creates just one bigger white layer. And for those of you that don't know, when I say white, I mean 15 and 20, and when I say black, I mean 1084. That's just the colors, they kind of pop out. Even though it's not white, it's silver, but you know, we go black and white. It's a lot easier to remember and a lot easier to differentiate. So here I'm just working it down. I'm gonna get it down to a consistent thickness, that way I can use that as a forging stock. And here we're using our KISS blocks. I have the 1 inch and I have an extra inch sitting on top, that way I get a nice clean 2-inch billet. And that is just because the majority of the steel that I use, that I would use maybe as a coarse steel, is about 2 inches, and that's the regular size that I order. And I'm gonna work it down to a 1/4 inch. Those are 1/4 inch KISS blocks. That way I have nice usable stock for whatever I want to forge out. For the average knife, forging from 1/4 inch thickness is preferable for myself. So here I'm taking off that cutoff that I just cut, and I'm going to forge out a small knife. The rest of the billet was used on a previous build where I made a Damascus kukri from, And so this is one of the end cuts from that billet. So originally I was going to make more of a Honesuki, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which I'm probably not. But it ended up changing slightly as I forged it, and it ended up being a little bit more of a drop point little utility knife. And overall I think it came out pretty nice. Sometimes I go for something and end up with something else. I'm also working on a project currently where that also happened. I originally started with the intention of making a kind of layered twist Damascus, not a Turkish twist. It was random. It was going to be multiple layers, and see if I could manipulate the twisting to give any kind of interesting lines through it. And it ended up turning into a bit of a mosaic of sorts, just because I don't really know what I'm doing half the time. And once I start seeing some results, I just change my mind completely. None of these knives that I do are, really planned out that much. They are pretty much just improvised. I don't do custom orders, so I don't really have anybody that's telling me I want this specific knife in this specific way, which is one of the reasons why I decided to do YouTube, so that I can just make whatever I want, and hopefully the video markets it out and somebody's interested in buying that product. And that's how I kind of work. Not to say that I'll never do custom work. I'll probably end up doing a custom piece every now and then, depending. Right now I'm doing a machete for a friend, but it's a very simple project that he wants, and I was like, yeah, I can do that for you. But it's a simple monosteel machete, and it has a bit of a curve to it. It's pretty cool looking. Nonetheless, as I was saying, I kind of just go with the flow and make whatever I want to make, and then I go from there. Though I do want to make more intricate work. I think I'm going to have some leftover material from next week's build that I will probably use in the near future to make maybe a Bowie of some kind, and market that as well. But that would be for a future build, because I have to space out my builds, the more intricate builds that I do, just because the 1 week timeline that I give myself to make an intricate build is most of the time not enough. Thanks to the fact that I've been doing a lot more hand forging lately, as I know some of you have noticed, because I've been getting comments on that my hand forging is getting a lot better. A lot of the knives that I do have very little stock removal, unless it is a copper knife or an equivalent steel that I won't forge because it'll end up delaminating. Those I do have to do more stock removal from. But on average, I do very little stock removal. And on those copper ones, I try to change it up to where I'm wasting the least amount of material as necessary. Such as the ones that I did a few weeks ago. If you haven't checked out, you should definitely check that out. Actually, I think it was last week's video, not a few weeks ago. But that one, that will be linked at the end of this video. The original stock was over 2 inches, and I knew I wasn't going to make a knife over 2 inches wide for that particular video. So I ended up cutting it diagonally and making it into 4 inches by 1 1/4 versus having it be like 2.5-ish by 4 inches, or 2.5-ish by 2 inches, depending how I cut it. And that build took a little bit of a while to be able to make. That's why I ended up having to make 2 videos, because I wasn't going to make deadline for like 3 weeks. So instead of doing that, I chopped it up into individual videos. But I don't really like to do that. Which actually leads me into an important question. Do you guys like parts videos when I split it up? Or would you prefer just one long video, even if I have to, skip a week and not post 1 week, and then incorporate everything into one video? Alright guys, so this is where we're at on the build. We're ready for heat treat, but before I go into my actual heat treat, I'm actually going to start up on the handle, and that is because it's currently Friday and I don't have much time to finish up this knife and edit the video before Sunday. So to be able to maximize my time, I'm actually going to start prepping on the handle, and then I will heat treat this guy. That way I can finish prepping the handle while this guy is tempering, because it has to go through two hour sessions at about 375-ish. And so while it's doing that, I can finish prepping up the handle and hand sanding the bolster part of the handle, the front part, I don't know what it's called. So to be able to get that done, I'm gonna go on ahead and start prepping up my handle. Once I do my finish grind, nothing's really gonna change. The handle's pretty much there, just a little bit of cleanup, but the holes are gonna stay, they're not gonna change, and it's all pretty much gonna be grinding up front and doing my finish grind. So let's go on ahead and start prepping the handle. And for the handle, I'm going to be using some of this Opal G10. It's a very pretty stuff, and I'll be pairing it with some black liners and some black pins, and I think it's going to look nice once we etch it and the pattern pops out. So as I was saying before I interrupted myself, would you guys prefer longer videos even if I have to skip out on a week, or would you prefer to do parts videos? I do have a lot of projects in mind, but a lot of them are going to require more than the specific amount of days that I give myself to be able to post a video weekly. Because if you're a knife maker, you know anything that's complicated that requires a lot of time, it's a bit of a pain to do, especially if you're working a full-time job, which mine picked up over the last few weeks again, which I am happy, but it takes away time from actual knife making for me. But as a commenter had said in last week's video, I don't know how you can part with such beautiful knives, and my answer to him was simply bills. They must be paid. You know, work is work, and so sometimes I just have less time in the forge versus other times where I have, you know, a whole week in the forge where I can forge out whatever I want to forge out and dedicate more time to it. So let me know in the comments down below, would you rather have parts videos, or would you rather just skip a week and just bring a longer video next week with everything included in there? Because take into note, I am a one-person shop. I do all the recording, all the building, all the editing, all the thumbnails, everything. I don't outsource a single thing, and it is a lot of work and a lot of time that goes into each of these videos that I post. So back to a knife build. This material that I'm using is a G10 opal colored material. It is very beautiful, but it's also a pain because it is extremely dusty, and whenever I work it, it absolutely gets everywhere. Alright, so we are out of the temper. The knife is looking very nice. Now we're going to go on to our finish grind. We do have a little bit of pitting in some areas where I had forged it thinner than the rest, but for the most part we're looking good. I'm not too worried about anything. I do have a tiny delamination here towards the front, and that's because the billet was, since I had cut it with the press, I hot cut it, so it had a little extra sliver, and that sliver kind of just bent over. It folded into the knife, so we have a very tiny delamination. So hopefully whenever I do my my bevel grind, I grind that out and we don't have any issues. The only real issue I can see that we have from that delamination is from the point of actually etching it and it being a little bit lighter, but hopefully that's not the case. One fortunate thing about this build is that my heat treat was extremely successful, since it did not warp pretty much any. I had a slight bump on one side, but I ended up grinding that out by hand. So it had very, very little warpage, basically none. And so working it was a breeze. Here I'm grinding it with a worn 36 grit belt, and it's a bit fuzzy. It is working, but it is heating up the knife a little bit more than I would like as I'm grinding. So I switch over to a fresh 60 grit belt, and it does very fast, very clean work of this knife. And I probably cut my grind time down by probably half an hour, if not more. And here I'm cleaning up the spine of the knife. Always remember to round over your spine. That one small quick detail actually helps on the comfortability of the knife very much. And here, even though I drilled some holes, I decided to notch in a little bit of a relief there just to take a little bit more weight. Since it is a rather small knife, I'm trying to reduce as much of the weight as I can. Hand sanding sucks. And now we're moving up to gluing the handle. Here I would like to ask you, if you are not subscribed, you should definitely subscribe if you watch this much of the video and if you watch this many of my videos, because somewhere around the line of like 60 something or 70 something percent, I can't remember from the last time I checked, but of you guys are not subscribed and you're watching my videos, so you should definitely subscribe and join the channel. We have a very fun and welcoming community, minus the one random comment I get every like 3 videos that complains about the voiceover. Why do you talk so much? And then I have to be mean to them, and then they're like, you shouldn't be mean to me, you're a YouTuber, you should be grateful. And then I am mean to them some more. Also, another way to help support the channel is to like the video. Liking the video is very free as well. Back to the build though, one of the reasons why I use G10 for my pins and for liners is because it helps me etch the whole knife. That way I can have Damascus etch go all the way around the tang and not just be on the faces of the knife like some knife makers do. And knife making is all about, you know, creative liberty. I don't care what you do with your knives. This is just what I do with mine because I think it looks nicer. And so I like to take this extra step. Now on this material, it does not absorb any liquid, so I don't have to put those spacers. But I feel like by adding those spacers, once I put in those pins, it kind of just combines together and it looks really good in contrast to the teal color of the opal. And it just looks nice, and I like it, so that's why I went that approach. And also because when you were working with a soft material like this G10 that just grinds away like it's not even there, so you can see by all the dust it's producing. If I have a different material that's harder to grind from the pins, it kind of creates little bumps that I don't really like. So that's why I choose to go with those black pins, and also because they just pop out and look really great. So here we're going into our etch and then into our coffee solution. That way we get a nice dark and beautiful contrast. And here we're adding our maker's mark with our laser. You don't need a laser to do this, but it is definitely the easiest way to go about it. But they are quite expensive. And in all honesty, if I wasn't a knife maker on YouTube and got it from a company, I probably would not own a laser, just because this is all I use it for. And I wouldn't be able to justify to myself the price tag for just making my maker's mark. But it is an awesome machine, and I use it to mark all kinds of other stuff, but that's not really always included in my knife making business. So the knife came out very sharp, and here is a close-up look. Unfortunately, I finished it pretty late into the night, so I wasn't able to get an outside view in the sun. So you're gonna have to just enjoy one in here in my garage under the lighting. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about the knife, and it is available for sale if anybody wants to pick it up in my website in the description down below. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate y'all, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.